Howdy, y'all. Barry. Hope y'all had a very good. Wait, hold on. Hope you all had a very Merry Christmas, as well as a happy holiday season. If you don't celebrate Christmas, happy whatever you happen to celebrate. And if you didn't happen to celebrate anything this past week, then I just hope you had an okay week. Just a good week in general. It was very, very frigid up here where I'm living. I think on Christmas Day, the wind chill got down to about -5, so very, very cold. So that got me thinking that I should make a video about the only devil fruit in all of One Piece that controls heat and fire. That's right. Akainu's Magu Magu no Mi. Wait, nope, I already did that one. Of course, I'm talking about Oven's Netsu Netsu no Mi. Nope, already talked about Ovens too. Well, of course, obviously, the big reveal is Donacino's Atsu Atsu no Mi. But actually, psych, it isn't. It's actually Bill's Gutsu Gutsu no Mi. Yeah, the smelt fruit. Okay, in all honesty, we actually do need to make a video about Bill's fruit, because that is pretty cool. You turn your whole body into a blast furnace, and you could, take a bunch of ore and just shove it inside of your abs, and then rip out a bunch of, swords and battle axes and war hammers. That is actually a pretty cool ability. We need to talk about that at some point. But no, we're going even more basic than all of that. Simply the Logia that allows you to control the element of fire! Technology is amazing, isn't it? It looks like I'm a firebender right now. Yeah! Okay. So, of course, this is the Mera-Mera no Mi, or the Flame fruit, wielded previously by Luffy's big brother, Portcullis D. Ace, and now currently wielded by the Revolutionary Army's Chief of Staff, the right-hand man of Dragon himself, Sabo. So, yeah, actually, you know what? Ace has the Will of D. So does Luffy. I'm just saying, I know they're not actually brothers, but hey, Ace and Luffy aren't actually brothers. They both have the Will of D, and we only know Sabo's first name, so who knows? And also, he might still be suffering from a little bit of amnesia there. He might not remember every little detail from his past. Maybe he is. Who knows? I don't know. At any rate, the Mera-Mera no Mi is very famous in One Piece. It's probably one of the most famous devil fruits out there, not just because it was wielded by Ace, but because it actually played a pivotal role. Like, the fruit itself was a pivotal role on why Luffy joined the Cordia Coliseum and why he participated, and a whole thing of that arc, like an underlying plot thread about until like the halfway point of Dressrosa, was who's going to get their hands on the Mera-Mera no Mi and who's going to be like the successor to wielding Ace's powers. Before we knew that Sabo was confirmed to be alive 100% and that he was in Dressrosa, we didn't really know. Of course, Luffy couldn't eat it because he had, the Gum Gum no Mi already. There was that one scene where he asks Frankie if he would want to eat it. That was a cool moment where it's Luffy and Frankie interrogating one of Doflamingo's men, and he's explaining the whole reincarnation of devil fruit concept, and also explaining that the Mera-Mera no Mi is going to be put up as a prize in the Coliseum, and Luffy's sitting there like, well, I can't eat it. And he just looks over at Frankie like, hey, Frankie, you don't have a devil fruit. Do you want to eat it? And Frankie just kind of turned it down right away. He very politely, Frankie was like, I'm sorry, Luffy. I mean, I appreciate the thought, but I'd rather be able to swim with my super body. But no, can you think about what would have been if Frankie was the one that got that power? I mean, beyond everything else, we could just add, strong blazing right, it's just every attack is just on fire. That would be really cool. But just from the fact that he is a cyborg, then essentially the Mera-Mera no Mi could basically become his power source. Like, he wouldn't have to rely on cola anymore. Like, he could still drink it because he's Frankie, but he would basically have an unlimited power source in the Mera-Mera no Mi to power his cyborg body. So that would be really cool, right? But no, of course, Frankie is not the one that eats it. It's, of course, Sabo that takes the place of Luffy or Lushi during the Cordia Coliseum Rumble, and he gets it. And it seems so far from what we've seen, Sabo is really good at using it. He's still training, of course, but right after eating the fruit, he was able to launch a Hiken, or a fire fist, at the Coliseum, and it seemed to be pretty destructive. I mean, maybe he didn't plan on it being so destructive, and it's like he still has a little bit, I have to get control over this a bit. It's like maybe the guardian spirit of Ace was speaking into Sabo's ear that day, like, Sabo, I know you just got the fruit, but I want you to take your fist, and then just light it on fire and just scream he can. Trust me, everything will turn out great, you know? All right, so, yes, it is a Logia, yes, it is fire, and we've seen a billion fire elementals and fire-based abilities in anime throughout the years, of course, but fire is kind of a really important thing. I'm gonna be making a lot of references to Avatar: The Last Airbender here in a second. Fire really important, of course, and you could do it for a bunch of different things. It's not just attacking people. It's perfectly represented when Ace first gets it in the first Ace light novel here. I've been saying Ace a lot here, but in the first Ace light novel, when Ace and Mass Deuce are adrift and they land at Sixus, this deserted island, when Ace finally consumes the Mera-Mera no Mi, the author goes into a whole thing of how, like, this makes everything so much easier now. You know, it doesn't matter how, like, damp it is out. We can light a fire whenever we want. We can have cooked fish whenever we want. And eventually it's using the Mera-Mera no Mi to make a like a kind of like a prototype version of the Striker in order to blast off the island to escape the waves. So, you know, if Tom Hanks had the Mera-Mera no Mi in Castaway, that movie would be over in like a second, right? I do like Castaway, although it is a little weird that Tom Hanks talked to a volleyball the entire time in that movie, right, Barry? I know, right? It's a little strange. I think Barry, I think Tom Hanks was losing his mind a little bit there, but you know how it goes. Okay. So, some techniques that Ace utilizes with the fruit. They're not bad techniques. They're pretty cool anime techniques. I'm just saying that he could have come up with maybe some even cooler stuff with the raw power of fire. So, first off, you got his standard. You got his signature move, the Hiken, or the Fire Fist. Really simple ability. You just charge up fire in your fist, and then you punch. But it's an ultimate fire punch. When he first used this to wipe out those fleet of Baroque works ship at Alabasta, those ships might as well have been made of freaking cray paper. Alright, they lit up like that. Okay, and so he just destroyed an entire fleet, and then he just leaves. In the anime, he sticks around a little longer to go into the desert, and, I don't know, like, we know that when he first arrived at Drum Island, just his presence on the island was enough for it to stop snowing that particular day. So you can tell at that point he had trained very well with his Logia, because we assume that when you awaken a Logia fruit, you're actually able to permanently alter the environment or the weather around a particular space or an island. So, for example, like Raijin Island, the island in the New World that we've yet to visit, unfortunately, was an island that has constant lightning rain bombarding it. There was probably a previous user of Enel's fruit, the Goro Goro no Mi, that maybe lived on that island and awakened it, and that's why we have constant lightning rain there. Punk Hazard is a perfect example of this, where it was previously just a bombed-out wasteland, and then after Aokiji and Akainu had their battle there, half of the island is now entirely a volcanic hellscape because of Akainu's Magu Magu no Mi, and the other half is Aokiji's Hia Hia no Mi, so it's like an Arctic tundra. Alright, so I like to think that, you know, Ace wasn't quite ready to awaken his fruit, but he was getting pretty close to it. He definitely trained with it for a while, and he was sort of a prodigy, and he knew what he was doing with his power. So when he arrived on the island, it's just like the weather just goes, you know, immediately like clear, and it stops snowing for just that day, kind of giving us a hint at Ace's power. And then later on, like I said, this was only in the anime, but he's traveling through the deserts of Alabasta where it's really hot. I don't remember Ace being really upset by the heat. It's something that's not really a big deal. See, the thing is, there are, and I was joking about it earlier, but there really are a lot of heat and fire-based fruits throughout One Piece. And it's kind of like Ace has the ability of fire, but also just tangentially because of that, he's also going to have a little bit of the Netsu Netsu no Mi, the Oven's fruit, a little bit of the heat aspect there. And then Akainu is kind of the superior to all fire and heat-based devil fruits, because Akainu controls magma, which in the context of One Piece, I guess, is burning even hotter than fire, even though we've discussed this before. We go back and watch the Magu Magu no Mi video. Magma is very hot, but fire can definitely get hotter than magma, so the whole reason why, you know, Akainu was like, you know, magma burns hotter than fire, therefore I can harm you. You know, that whole thing was kind of but on top of magma, just tangentially because of that, Akainu can also control fire to an extent and heat to an extent. Alright, so it's kind of like all the greatest fire fruits all rolled into one there, right? You know, so Ace using his fire powers beyond he can. He also has St. Elmo's fire, which I believe is just the fire spear technique. So pretty simple. He can like mold his fire into like a bunch of different shapes. It's anime, and he can fire it at people. And so when the flame spears hit you, it actually does look like a solid object is hitting you, like it impaled Blackbeard. He's got his fiery doll and his firefly techniques. Those are actually probably my favorite, just of how like unique. It's like a two-stage kind of attack. By the way, did you hear that Firefly is getting a new season? So that's pretty neat, like the show Firefly. But anyway, this technique involves Ace summoning a bunch of like embers or like sparks that are green in color. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe Ace can control the color of his fire at will. Like I know fire goes through like different like blue fire, and eventually if it gets hot enough it'll just be white hot fire. But maybe Ace having power over the Logia, he can just like, depending on my mood, I can make blue fire, green fire, white fire, purple fire, whatever color I want, really, like fireworks on the 4th of July or whatever. But at any rate, he makes these little tiny like orbs of lights, and he can send them at the enemy, and the orbs themselves don't really do much damage. They just kind of float around you, and then when they're all lined up, kind of like Piccolo's Hellzone grenade technique from Dragon Ball Z, he's like, Firefly. Oh, those are pretty. Fiery doll! And they just all erupt in flames at once, torching whoever's near it. That makes me think that he can take even a little ember, like a little spark, and cause it to like flare up in like an insane level and just incinerate whatever's around it. So like if Ace was around, I have like a little lighter here I bought from the dollar store. It's like, just a little flame. If Ace was around, he could be like, oh, let me help you out with that. And then it like reaches the ceiling or something. So if you ever hang out around a bonfire at night or whatever, you're hanging out, you have a fire pit, and a spark maybe shot out of the fire and maybe landed on your skin and like, singed your arm hair or something, like, oh, that's okay. If it was Ace, he'd be like, oh, that's not a big, like your entire arm goes on fire. So that's what I think that the Firefly and Fiery Doll is like. He's also got Crossfire! I love that, like, from the game. There's a lot of references with Ace now. St. Elmo's Fire is the name of a movie in the 80s. That makes me think Oda was maybe just watching that movie when he came up with the idea. He's like, so Ace is gonna fight Blackbeard coming up here in the story. I need to come up with some really badass techniques that Ace can utilize. He's like, up next, St. Elmo's Fire. All right, it has fire in it. That's good there. And then maybe Oda was then on a kick of watching old 90s commercials on YouTube, and he saw the commercial for Crossfire! And he's like, oh, it has fire in it. That has to be a name. So he literally takes his fingers, he makes a cross, and also on top of heat and fire, I guess he also tangentially has a little bit of control over lights, because, you could just walk into a dark cave, you don't need a torch, or he is the human torch. So he kind of does this, and like a little stream of light will take the appearance of a cross, and kind of like a sniper dot, he can just kind of move it around, and it lands right on his target, and just shoots out fire condensed in a cross shape, and that just hits you. I imagine he could also do this with just one finger if he wanted to. He could just like point at you like a laser pointer, and then just boom, and then just fires at you. He does have a technique similar to that, his fire gun technique, where he literally, once again, kind of similar to St. Elmo's Fire with the spears, it's kind of like turning fire into a solid object. So like when the fire spears hit you, it doesn't just like hit you and then erupt in flame. It actually does pierce your flesh and then like burn you from the inside out. All right, so like the fire gun technique is the same deal, which I don't know how that works. Hockey, I don't know. But anyway, he takes out his fingers like this, and he's like, like fire gun, and then fires fire bullets, and if they hit you, it actually feels like you're getting shot with an actual bullet on top of being burnt wherever they hit you. Okay, so yeah, he kind of has an ability like that, but it would be cool to just like take out like this and just point, and then just like light someone up wherever they point, Or I think he also used it to help light Sanji's cigarette once, right? It's very convenient. You don't ever need a lighter. Sanji's like, oh man, I forgot my lighter. It's up in my room. And Ace is like, don't worry, I got you. There you go, and then that's all it takes, right? So those are his techniques, which are cool. Like I said, they're all really neat, but going into Avatar: The Last Airbender a little bit, and I know Ace has one more technique, but we'll get to that. That's his big final finishing move, right? But I just want to talk about this very quickly. In Avatar, of course, you have firebenders, and each aspect of bending in Avatar is based on a sort of martial art, right? So there's like different martial arts, like for earthbending. Like I know Toph has like the mantis stance and everything like that. And so that's where a lot of like the bending aspect comes from. It's not just the fact that there's people in Avatar that can control water or earth or air or fire. It's like there's a whole movement around that, a whole martial art when you're learning firebending, when you're learning airbending, and they're all different, okay? And so that couldn't help me but think, like, what if Ace perfected some sort of martial art? Like, can you imagine if Ace was like, I know in like One Piece there's like Fishman karate and stuff, and humans can learn Fishman karate, as like Koala is a perfect example there. But can you imagine like if Ace, on top of after getting the Mera-Mera no Mi, learned a martial art, like learned judo or karate or something, or that capoeira, like that Brazilian martial art that uses your legs? Like, can you imagine if he was like an expert in that? Like, it would just increase the potency of the Mera-Mera no Mi to a whole new degree. Like, if he was a black belt in judo, which primarily focuses on, like, you know, grappling and, like, pinning your opponent and, like, putting them into holds and stuff, like, the fight would be awesome right there. I mean, like, Ace fights to somebody, and he doesn't rely too much on projectiles. He gets in close with the opponent, like, boom, 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 puts them in a lock, and just like, okay, flame on. Fight's over. Fight's over. Now, it would be nice to have some projectile attacks, as the fight with Blackbeard certainly showed him. Although Blackbeard was sort of an exception to that, because Blackbeard has such a weird devil fruit to begin with, the Yami Yami no Mi, that has like a very specific power to negate and absorb other devil fruit abilities. Now, of course, Ace could always deal with somebody that has Haki, but Ace had Haki too, right? So, I'm just saying, like, some really cool techniques Ace came up with, like Fire Fist, Flame Spear, Fire Gun, Crossfire, all that cool stuff. But I think it could have went to, you know, a level beyond what Ace had. And then that's really cool, because we get a second chance with this with Sabo. Because Sabo, here's the cool thing. Sabo, on top of doing the same kind of training that Ace and Luffy did, they trained as kids on Dawn Island. It wasn't really a martial art. They were just kind of like running through the forest, getting like endurance training and strength training, fighting against all the animals of the forest, running around, fighting each other. It was that kind of training. They didn't really know any kind of martial art as a kid, so they're just like, you know, Ace and Sabo used like the pipes to attack, and Luffy was training with his Gumu Gumu powers, and that was pretty much it, right? But on top of that, Sabo did not have a devil fruit for most of his life, so that means he had to train with his pipe and also train using his Haki, like his Dragon Claw techniques and all that stuff. And I'm sure on top of that, they also trained with Hack. Hack being a master of Fishman karate and jujitsu, and Koala is a human that learned, you know, karate, and so I'm imagining Sabo also knows some martial arts skills as well. That's the cool thing. So he learned the martial arts first and the Haki first, then Sabo got his hands on the Mera-Mera no Mi. And I'm very, very interested to see Sabo now, because we haven't seen him in like a full battle since Dressrosa, and that was right after he got the fruit. He clashed with Burgess a little bit there, but that was right after he got the fruit, so he wasn't really trained with it yet. So now, after a couple weeks, he's been training with this fruit. He's got a better handle on this, combining it with his Dragon Claw and his Haki and all those martial arts and his pipe and everything. It is going to be so damn cool to finally see Sabo in action. I want you to picture that. Picture anybody going up against Sabo. I don't even care. Fujitora, let's use him. Why not? Okay, he probably did fight Fujitora during the 4th day of Reverie. So Fujitora is there. He's got his gravity fruit. He's got his sword. He's blind, but he has really good observation and everything. I want you to imagine Sabo taking out his staff, his pipe, and he's like, you know, landing that in the ground and spinning around and like using fire on his legs to like kick him, and then jumping up in the air and then spinning around and using, you know, freaking Haki, Dragon Claw with Hiken combined with that, and launching that, and using all these different like Fishman karate based techniques. Oh my god, the choreography alone would be a feast for the eyes. It would be beautiful to watch, okay? So I cannot wait until we get like a full-on battle with Sabo, trained with just a little bit training with the Mera-Mera no Mi. I don't mean to crap on you, Ace, or anything. I know you kind of had you're kind of dead, so I feel bad, but I feel like Sabo might have the potential to excel more in the Mera-Mera than you did, you know? And it might just be because, like, pretty much as soon as he left Dawn Island, one of the first places Ace ended up was washing ashore on Sixus and getting the fruit. And when you get a badass Logia fruit, like, it's literally the fruit that allows you to control fire. I mean, out of all the devil fruits that exist, you could have gotten a crappy jacket fruit, or you could have gotten a fruit like Luffy's Gumu Gumu, which Luffy's Gumu Gumu doesn't suck, but it's going to take a few years to train with that to really get to the point where you can actually use it. Ace got the fruit that was a Logia for one, and also fire, for God's sake. So he's like, man, fire fruit. Okay, that's a really powerful fruit. It's not the strongest in the world, and Akainu's is the evolved form of that. And there's other fruits that control heat, but the fire fruit, I think you rolled really good on the random devil fruit roulette table there, you know what I mean? So Ace probably put all of his time and energy to mastering that as quick as possible, right? He also had Haki at that point. Ace also had Conquerors, although we don't really get to see him use it too much when he's an adult, but when he's a kid, he did exert Conquerors Haki on the Blue Jam Pirates. Remember that scene? So yeah, I think it's a situation there where he just trained really hard and put all of his time and energy in the Mera-Mera, and he stayed in physical fitness. I mean, he had rippling abs and muscles and everything, but you have the fire fruit, you're going to focus on that. Sabo, it's just an addition to all the stuff he'd already learned, fighting with his polearm weapon, fighting with Haki, and fighting with his martial arts skills. On top of that, with the Mera-Mera, Sabo is going to wreck some shit, I guarantee you right now. And if Sabo awakens the Mera-Mera no Mi, holy crap, blue fire everywhere, freaking white hot fire everywhere. Oh my god, being able to change the weather around him, it's gonna be insanity. Pure insanity. How much insanity? Pure insanity. On top of that, it also shares some nice benefits like a lot of Logias do. Like, Crocodile had the ability to essentially fly using his sand powers. Ace can fly as well. In fact, I think Ace can fly even better than like Crocodile could because, yeah, sand is, it's not a lot of weight, but fire is... well, it's fire. I mean, technically, I think because one of those laws of thermodynamics, I'm pretty sure everything has to have some kind of weight. Even fire probably has some kind of microscopic weight or something. But essentially, you can fly. And, actually, he can definitely fly just beyond just that because he could literally use his feet as thrusters to just... So picture that now. Picture Ace not even turning into fire and traveling around like that. Picture Ace just using his feet as, like, jet boosters and just... Ace, away! And he could just fly around like that. Not an infinite power source. I know I said at the beginning with Frankie it'd be cool to have like an infinite power source, but it might be something similar to Law's fruit or a lot of other Logias. Like maybe if they use their fruit powers too much, eventually they're going to get tired, just naturally. Like, I'm sure Ace has a lot of stamina, but I don't think Ace has like the infinite ability to just be like, he can, and just keep doing that. Like, how many he cans could Ace do until he eventually gets tired? Like, eventually his body is going to get exhausted from doing that, right? So it's not infinite, but from all the times we've seen him use it in the story, it works for what it needs to do. It doesn't seem like it really burns him out too quickly, if not to, that wasn't a pun, but I guess it is now. And it literally is a power source that he uses for the Striker. So he gets on his little mini dinghy, his little boat, the Striker, and has a little metal kind of plate there. He kind of stands on that. I'm hoping it kind of like belts his feet into it so he doesn't like fall off. And then he just channels the heat through that metal plate that powers an engine that fires, the fan, the turbine that allows the ship to actually move at really fast speeds, right? Because there are things like electricity that exist in the One Piece world, like just the presence of like refrigerators kind of prove that. So electricity definitely exists in One Piece, but most of the world is on the water, like islands and stuff, so some might be more secluded than others. So like not like every single island has like a power plant. So kind of similar to like how Smoker has his smog hog. He's got his motorcycle that's powered by his smoke powers. Mr. 3 had a boat that was powered by his Doro Doro, his wax powers, and Ace has the Striker, which is powered by fire. Also reminds me of that scene in Korra, where Mako goes and like he works at like the power plant, and the power plant in Legend of Korra is powered by people that use firebending. And you use firebending and like lightning bending in order to power the turbines and provide electricity for all of Republic City. So that's kind of cool. It's like, it's not just I can make fire, I can light cigarettes and torch entire boats. No, my entire body is literally a power plant. So that's pretty damn cool in and of itself. He's basically his own generator. There was also that scene where, since I brought up Smoker, there was the scene where Ace clashed with Smoker, and because smoke is like the byproduct of fire, it was kind of just like an even match. And I think Ace even said that, like, well, we could keep fighting, and I would probably win, but I think it's just going to be an even keel between the two of us. Like, we're not really going to get anywhere. It's like just one of those things of how certain devil fruits match up with each other, right? And then later on during Marineford, it's Aka Inu that manages to punch him through. And also, I mean, Ace was the one that was freed. He was ready to go. All he had to do was walk in one direction toward the ship and get the hell out of Dodge. But no, all it took was Aka Inu crap-talking Whitebeard and being like, Whitebeard sucks. He's like, you take that back. Okay, come on over here. Man, I didn't think that was gonna work in a million. Ah, bam! And then, yeah, that's how Ace died there. But it led to the Dressrosa arc, Doflamingo getting his hands on the fruit and then making it a prize there. Originally, Doflamingo, like, they didn't plan on anybody getting the prize. They planned on like one of the executives getting the prize or one of the members of the family getting it. But of course, you know, Ace. But of course, Sabo showed up and kind of screwed that whole thing up, and so he got his hands on it, of course. But yeah, it was like the crux of an entire, like, half of an arc, because Dressrosa was a pretty long arc. And we also got to, you know, learn about Devil Fruit reincarnation kind of through the Mera-Mera no Mi. And at the end of the day, more importantly than whatever power it has, it is literally a torch. Passing the torch, the spirit of Porcus Dies, down to Sabo, his brother that he trained with when he was a kid. So that's like some more symbolism there. It's not just about being really cool and being able to summon Dienkai, which you thought I almost forgot about that, right? Yeah, okay. So that's Ace's strongest move, Flame Commandment, where he basically just creates a bunch of fire all around him. And it's implied that on top of Flame Emperor, which is like his ultimate like Genki Dama of fire, he literally makes basically a miniature sun. Like, he pours all of his firepower into a giant Genki Dama of pure fire and heat and light, and he throws it at the enemy. Under normal circumstances, that would probably incinerate anybody down to their freaking atoms, but in Blackbeard's case, he was able to absorb it and, you know, defeat Ace there. But on top of Flame Emperor, the Flame Commandment also, like, he was able to use Fire Pillar, like, you know, shoot up a bunch of fire into the air. So there's probably a bunch of other techniques that, you know, come from Flame Commandment. Right, like, he's just like, all right, Flame Commandment is just me torching the entire surrounding area, like making a ring of fire, you know, I fell into a burning ring of fire all around me, and I could do a bunch of techniques with that. So Flame Emperor and Fire Pillar are like two of those, but I can imagine he can make like a ring of fire around him, and then maybe fire the fire off like omnidirectional, like Flame Commandment and Flame Shower, and then it just fires off flames like a firework, like in all directions. So I'm sure there was probably more stuff that he could do with that, and I'm sure Sabo is gonna maybe Sabo, he has a few of his techniques, like obviously Sabo is going to use the He Ken in honor of Ace, but Sabo might have some new technique names all ready to go in his head, like, ooh, this would be a cool name for it, oh, this would be a cool name for it, right? So yeah, we're going to see a lot of stuff from Sabo. It's just unfortunate, you know, all that Ace wanted to do was use his power to spread warmth and Christmas cheer to everybody. And then Aka Inu, the Grinch that he was, the Ebenezer Scrooge of One Piece, had to just be like, I don't like Christmas! BAM! Torched! Someone needs to draw that now. Someone needs to draw Aka Inu as Ebenezer Scrooge, featuring all of the other admirals as the ghosts. Yes! Yes, we could have Aokiji be the ghost of Christmas past, and he's like, come here, Aka Inu. Remember that time in Ohara that you gave the order for a bunch of innocent civilians to all be killed? That wasn't very Christmassy. And then Fujitora has to be the ghost of Christmas present. I could see Fujitora like in the living room with the fireplace and all the presents, and he's wearing like, you know, red and green, and he's eating like his ramen, or maybe eating his Christmas ham or whatever. Like, he's this big jolly guy. And then it is just like, you know, remember what happened, you know, recently, all the stuff that you've done, Aka Inu. You know, there's a kid over there from Marineford that's missing a leg because of what you did. He's like, absolute justice, he got in the way. Yeah, well, he also doesn't have a leg right now. That's kind of a dick move, buddy. And then, I guess, process of elimination, the ghost of Christmas future can be Kizaru. You know, just picture Kizaru wearing the cloak and maybe, you know, smoking something. Just like, hey there, Aka Inu, man, you gotta chill, dude. You know, so yeah, that was a tangent. I don't know how we really went from Mera-Mera no Mi to Aka Inu being Ebenezer Scrooge, but hey, we ended up getting there. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. We still got a few more videos left in the year, but I'm glad I finally got the Mera-Mera no Mi done, you know? It's like there's a lot of really popular fruits like the Gumu Gumu. I've kind of already talked about that in Luffy's video I've made, but I could probably make a separate video about the Gumu Gumu and all that stuff. Those are kind of fruits that I can kind of throw in whenever in the entire story, and considering Ace played a big role in the last chapter, we got a flashback of him. You know, Ace is not going to show up very often in the story. He's only going to show up in flashbacks from here on out, because I don't think Oda's going to do the Jedi ghost thing, you know, so, yeah, we're probably only going to see Ace a few intermediate times, so whenever he pops up, I'm like, oh, that's my opportunity. I should talk about the Mera-Mera no Mi now. Okay. Well, anyway, here's to a new year, and let's see if what Sabo's got coming for us. Maybe next year Sabo's going to do some really cool stuff with the Mera-Mera. So be Tekking and Barry signing out.